Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. Arizona U.S. Senator Mark Kelly yesterday held a town hall in Tucson that focused on Social Security concerns. And joining us tonight is Senator Mark Kelly to talk about those concerns and other issues on Capitol Hill. Senator, good to see you again. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. This town hall regarding Social Security, what did you hear from folks?
Yeah, folks are really concerned. I mean, I had a room full of seniors, probably about 150, 200 seniors that are worried about what the future of this program is. Many of them rely on Social Security for a good portion of their income. In some cases, it's all of it. And if Social Security benefits are cut, many of them are going to wind up in a situation where they're going to have to make decisions between food and housing and health care. And these are decisions that people in this part of their lifetime should not have to be concerned with. And when you look at what the administration, Ted, has done on Medicaid, I mean, just these drastic cuts that are going to leave 300,000 Arizonans over time without health insurance, and on SNAP benefits that also affect seniors. There are a lot of seniors that receive some food assistance from SNAP. These folks are very concerned. I would say many of them are scared about their own personal futures.
Should benefits, though, be trimmed in some way, shape, or form? Should retirement ages be raised? Should something happen here to help shore up Social Security?
Well, Ted, what happened over time is we have this Social Security Trust Fund that was supposed to help us get through the baby boom generation as that large generation born after World War II got into their retirement years. And Congress set up a plan to fund the trust fund to make sure that there were enough benefits to fully pay for programs that people paid into. These are earned benefits they paid into for their entire lives. This isn't a government handout. These are people, money was taken out of their checks for decades. But what happened, Ted, and this is interesting, what happened was when it was calculated how this was going to work, there wasn't an understanding that CEOs were going to start making 500 times what your average company employee was making. And the assumption was that people would have had higher earnings and more individuals would have been paying the maximum amount into the Social Security program. But because of a tax system and the way companies have been able to favor the executives over the workers, there hasn't been enough money paid into the trust fund. Now that's up for the United States Congress and a president to fix because, Ted, these are earned benefits. This isn't a government handout to people.
Right. But the Trump administration, first of all, 12% of the workforce, Social Security workforce cut by the Trump administration. That's what they're talking about here. Are we seeing those cuts? Is that a done deal?
They are firing people from Social Security, the people that administer this program. And by the way, it's one of the most efficiently administered programs like this if you compare it to a private insurance company like Liberty or Allstate. 1.2% it's got 1.2% overhead. That's unheard of in the private sector. So it's run very, very efficiently already. Kind of a bare bones budget. They're firing people. They're closing down the assistance centers where seniors can go when they need some help with the program accessing their benefits. So already it's hurting seniors and it's making it hard for them to receive these earned benefits.
As far as the future is concerned, the Trump administration is talking about Trump accounts for kids, Trump accounts. I guess babies are eligible to receive $1,000 at birth, and provided you have to invest in low stock mutual funds and these sorts, low cost stock mutual funds, these sorts of things. Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, let it slip, I think, a little bit here, Senator, by saying this was a backdoor for privatizing Social Security. Now, he kind of walked that back later, but that does seem to be, it's always a push, is it not, Senator, to get more privatization in Social Security, in retirement funds?
Yeah, I think he said the quiet part out loud. You know, he let the American people know the purpose of them setting up these accounts. That in years to come, they're going to point to this, and this is going to be their way that they're going to try to unravel a program that we have had for decades that have kept seniors in their homes, that have allowed them to have a decent retirement and a decent quality of life in their retirement. And this administration, and Scott Bessent said it, he said it to the American people, their plan is that this $1,000 that they give you at the beginning of your life means eventually we're going to just dissolve these programs. They've talked about this for decades. What I'm doing is trying to, well, hear from my constituents about what their concerns are to be able to take those back to Washington and fight for them and fight for these programs and to have the firsthand information, from them about how hard it would be if they lose these benefits.
Senator, I want some other issues here while we have you here. The firing of the Bureau of Labor Statistics chief after a bad jobs report. The impact of killing the messenger when it comes to economic data.
It's horrible. I think we're going to look back to this week, in future years and maybe say this was the time we saw the loss in confidence of the United States government. Any president, anybody, this president, future presidents should say to his people, bring me the bad news as soon as possible. And folks have to have confidence in their leaders that they can bring them bad news at any time. The message that Donald Trump has sent to his government is, I don't want to hear bad news. And by the way, if you bring me bad news, I'm going to fire you. And this whole argument that this person is somehow fixing the books is ridiculous. There are thousands of people there that see this data, that compile this data, that then show it to folks around the world that need to make decisions, economic decisions within our government, but even outside of government. And this could easily result in a total loss of confidence in the United States monetary system.
Well, and the monetary system is one thing, Senator, but let's talk about other areas of government. The military, for example. The idea of not giving bad news on military matters, that sounds like national security type issues here.
The worst, Ted, it is the worst thing anybody in any leadership position can do. When I was the commander of the space shuttle, I used to tell people, not only bring me bad news, disagree with me, and let's have a healthy discussion about what's the best way to proceed. The worst thing you can have in any organization is a bunch of yes people, and then after that are people that work for you that are afraid to bring you bad news. And he basically told the entire U.S. government, don't bring me bad news or I'm going to fire you.
I have to ask you, your Republican colleagues there in the Senate on Capitol Hill, there are folks who've been in the military, there are folks who have been in the business world. They know what you just said. They want to hear the bad news too. They want to get the accurate information. What are they saying, Republicans? What are you hearing from them when he says something like this?
Well, I've heard from a number of them that they're very concerned about this, just as I am. And I mean, he fired her, so I don't know what we do now. It's important, the message that comes with whoever he decides to put into this position. But there is going to be a loss of confidence in the information that comes from the United States government.
Senator RFK Jr., health chief here, cancels $500 million in grants to develop mRNA vaccines. Is this not a national security issue as well? These vaccines can be developed very quickly. And if you got some sort of biological warfare deal, I'm stepping out on a limb here, but if you got that happening, don't you want the best and the brightest working the fastest?
Yeah, you're not stepping out on a limb, Ted. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we need vaccines like this to be able to react to biological attacks. Also, just naturally occurring viruses as things mutate and happen very quickly. This worked for COVID. I know the conspiracy theories out there that RFK Jr. sometimes subscribes to, that these vaccines hurt people. Ted, I was in the hospitals. I was in the ICUs before there was a vaccine, and these places just packed with COVID victims. And then months after vaccines became available, including the mRNA vaccines, the ICUs were cleared of people. I mean, it saved millions and millions of lives from COVID around the world. We should be doubling down on successful research, not running away from it. And what this administration has done to defund science programs through universities, through the NIH, just recently got rid of 2,000 NASA employees. This is what our country does best. No other country invests in science and innovation like the United States of America. And you can't do this from the private sector. Private companies aren't going to make investments that provide a return in 10 or 20 years. It's the US government that has always done that. And if we're not going to lead in this kind of research, you know who is? China.
Yeah, and you mentioned NASA, and there was a guest, I was alerted to a guest opinion essay in the New York Times today regarding 24% cut to NASA's budget, losing 4,000 employees there. And it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the public-private aspect of space travel, of science in general, but especially of space travel, that is being really compromised here. Is that true?
Well, when you lay off a large portion of your senior workforce, the experts, sure, a lot of things are compromised. I mean, the future of the agency is compromised. The future of scientific research and innovation, safety could be compromised. We're getting ready to send astronauts around the moon in February of next year on the Artemis 2 mission. I'm concerned about their safety if we have a gutted NASA workforce. And by the way, we've been doing really well with this private-public partnership through companies like, especially SpaceX, as an example, but others, and it's been working really well. And if we cede, this kind of exploration, who's going to be successful? It's going to be China.
Last question, Senator, and again, we thank you for your time. Everything we've talked about here, from the other side, they will say that's fine and dandy, but there's been too much waste, too much fraud, and too much abuse. Waste, fraud, and abuse, again, has become a bit of a cliche, but that's what backs up the claims that the cuts need to happen, that things need to be tightened up and buttoned down. Do they have a point?
Oh, 100% they have a point on the waste aspect of this. On the fraud aspect of it, show me the indictments. I mean, if you've been saying there's all this fraud for 6 months, I'd like to see some indictments. Big government, bureaucracies, there is some waste, there is some redundancy, there is overlap. There are certainly areas that we need to trim down, but the way that Elon Musk and Donald Trump and their team of Doge brothers did this is not the way that you efficiently run a government. You don't come in on day one and start slashing and burning and just randomly firing people. What you do is you go to once you get your cabinet in place, you go to the cabinet secretaries and say, hey, over the next 6 months, come to me with a plan on how we're going to figure out where the overlap is, where is there redundancy, where can we efficiently reduce the size of these agencies? And then you work with Congress to implement a plan. We can reduce the size of government, and I agree we should. We absolutely should. But having a bunch of 22-year-old guys running around and just randomly firing some of our best people does not make us a better country.
U.S. Senator Mark Kelly. Senator, sir, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me, Ted.